Hello, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us this evening for Jazz at the Library, sponsored by Jazz Fresno, and with the support from the library and numerous other sources. We're really thankful to be here tonight. We're doing a tribute to Chick Corea. His passing this past February was really obviously unexpected, and no one would have thought that had happened. He had an aggressive form of cancer. And so it was a major shock to not only people like myself, but I think around the world, because he was a really influential and beloved artist. So we wanted to do some of his music for this particular presentation. And I wanted to basically say, for my own sake, Chick was a really major influence, and I'd say a mentor for me, developing my skills, as I know he was for, countless other jazz pianists. His professional life actually began with his dad. His dad was a jazz trumpet player, and Chick started playing the piano actually at the age of 4. His father got him a piano, and Chick just kind of like, from the age of 4 to 8, just kind of explored and learned to play things on his own. And then he finally, at the age of 8, he got some lessons from a concert pianist by the name of Salvatore Solo. And then by the time he was 15, he was playing gigs with his dad. And some of his big influences were Dizzy Gillespie and Horace Silver and Bud Powell. One of the things that I think is important for me, and I've told this to many of my students when I was teaching at San Diego State University, I always considered Chick Corea to be one of 5 what I call pillars of modern jazz piano playing. That included McCoy Tyner and Bill Evans, Chick, of course, Herbie Hancock, and Keith Jarrett. And it's really kind of sobering at this point in my life now to know that 3 of my influences and pillars are gone. One of them can't play the piano anymore. That's Jarrett and Herbie. So it's we all get older, and I remember when I was young and listening to these guys, they were just so inspiring to me. Now, as far as Chick's influence on modern jazz piano, it's hard to measure, but I do want to say, and I think I would have the agreement of a lot of jazz piano players, that if you're on a desert island and you have a selection of albums, a limited selection of albums that you want to have, one of them would be Now He Sings, Now He Sobs. That was the famous trio album that he did with Miroslav Vitos on bass and Roy Haynes. And we're actually going to be playing one of the songs from that album in the program. But early in his career, after Chick went to Columbia University for a while, and he actually went to Juilliard, and he just wasn't it wasn't a good fit for him. So he was in New York, and he began playing with people like Mongo Santamaria, Willie Bobo, played some hard bop with Blue Mitchell, played with Herbie Mann, toured and recorded with Stan Getz. In fact, Stan actually played some of Chick's music in his band. Then he went through a phase. His first album was Tones for Jones Bones, which we're also going to play tonight. And of course the aforementioned Now He Sings, Now He Sobs. He also went through a very interesting period, and I have to say this is probably one of my favorite periods, his kind of involvement in what would be called today avant-garde music or creative improvised music. And he had a very influential group at that time called Circle, and that included Anthony Braxton on woodwinds, David Holland on bass, and Barry Alschel on drums. And they recorded a few albums through that area of the early 70s. And one of my favorite albums of that period was the Paris Concert, which is on the ECM label. Chick's probably most popular albums when he went into his Brazilian period was Light as a Feather, which included Joe Farrell and Flora Purim, Aerto, and Stanley Clark. And that album was really formative to all the people I was playing with here in town. And when we used to have jam sessions at the Wild Blue Yonder, the club that Bill and Jim Bixler ran and owned, that music got played a lot. So I'm just bringing that up because we're not going to be playing any of that music on this program, just because we played so much of it, and I wanted to see if we could get into some of his music that is a little less well known. But he actually did an album with that group prior to Light as a Feather called Return to Forever, and we're going to be playing that particular piece this evening as well. And then he kept changing, and he kept Stanley Clark and brought on Lenny White, and Bill Connors was the first guitar player, and then later Al Di Meola, and he had what was called the fusion version of Return to Forever, and they did a number of very notable albums. And he was also very, very much into flamenco and Spanish music, and in fact, he had a band called My Spanish Heart Band, and they did some recording. And then he did a number of really interesting duo recordings too. One was, he did recordings with Gary Burton, Herbie Hancock, those were interesting. Bella Fleck, the mandolin and banjo player. Friedrich Gulda, a classical artist, and Anthony Braxton. So he operated in a lot of different areas. And he even performed some classical music. Most notably, he did an album, or not an album, he did a performance in 1985 with Keith Jarrett, and they performed Mozart Double Piano Concerto number 10 in E-flat major. And I was just doing a little research and just reading some of the reviews, and it was really interesting to read some of the reviews. Some of them were very positive, and then some were kind of not very positive, and I could tell that those were the reviews by classical musicians. You know, so that little prejudice was very much in effect at that time. But this goes to show how incredibly gifted he was and how diverse he was, and I'm not even scratching the surface yet. There were a number of different projects that he did over the years. He had a number of different bands. He had the Origin Sextet. He would get together periodically and tour with the original Now He Sings, Now He Sobs trio with Marislav Vitos and Roy Haynes. He had a tribute band to Bud Powell. And he was always playing with really great world-class musicians. So it's really, it is really, to me, important that I have a representation of most of those albums in my collection that I really value and cherish. One other thing I wanted to say too, now about his style, Chick had a very unique style. His sound was very unique. He had a very crisp and rhythmic approach. You could hear that when he improvised and he played his lines, and you could hear it obviously in his compositions. And one of the reasons why his tunes had that kind of a overall flavor was because he was also a very accomplished drummer. And actually he was so accomplished that he played drums on Wayne Shorter's Supernova. And it's funny, when I got the record, I mean, I'm a big Wayne Shorter fan, so when I got the album and I saw that Chick was on it, and then I looked at it and said he was playing drums, and I went, okay. And that was also a very interesting recording as well. So the overall, I think, contributions of Chick Corea can never be understated. And one of the things that was very important to him, and something that he kind of wrote when he knew he was passing, he wrote a little I don't know if he would call it an elegy or for himself, and it's on his website. But he basically was talking about all the musicians that he played with, and the incredible amount of enjoyment and friendship that he had over the years, just playing good music. And then at the end of it, he said something to the effect that, and one thing that's important is that musicians should have fun when they play. And I always got that. Chick Corea's personality to me was always a little, he was like a jester. You know, he could be humorous, but he could be dead serious in his music. So one thing I want to do too before we get on further into this is I wanted to really make I wanted to give some thanks to some very important people who made this happen. I want to thank my musician friends, Gary Newmark and John Lauffenburger. They're old friends of mine. It's amazing. Gary and I have been friends for 50 years. John and I have been friends for 40 years. And the new friend in this effort is Eva Scow. When I moved back to Fresno back in 2017, that was one of the things I wanted to do was to get an opportunity to play some really serious music with her. So when this idea came around for us to be able to do this tribute to Chick, she immediately came to mind. And I think you're going to really enjoy Eva's playing. She's just an amazing musician, and she added a whole nother level of excitement and interaction to this band and to this effort. I also wanted to thank Chuck Ulergi for allowing us to come into his studio to record. He's got a wonderful studio. He's incredibly generous. I want to thank him for his recording skills, his mixing skills, and he's got a great grand piano in his studio, which I love to play. And he said he won't let me have it. You know, he won't give it to me. So I'm just going to have to enjoy it when I have opportunities to play at his studio. I also want to thank, and this is just as important to me, Bill Reeve and Joe Lozama and Tony Manharis for the work, and especially for Joe and Bill especially for all the video work they did at the session, and now the editing work that they've been doing and have done. I just really want to thank them because they're all in this. Everybody's in this because it's out of love for the music, and that's what really means a lot to me. And the generosity and the time spent and the dedication is. I'm really thankful for it. It's really meaningful for me. So anyway, I'd like to talk a little bit about the music. On a flyer that I created for this event, I called this event Many Happy Returns, just in dedication to Chick. The first tune that we're going to play for you is the title tune on his very first album, Tones for Jones Bones. It's a very interesting tune. It's kind of a long form, and I did do a few different things in the tune. I added a different kind of intro, my own intro, and it's going to be it's kind of in a medium swing tempo with a little bit of an edge. The actual album was recorded in 1966, and it was released in 1968. So hope you enjoy Tones for Jones Bones. 1, 2. The next song we'd like to do now is a very interesting. I say it's not really a ballad, but it's a very nice slow jazz waltz. I kind of think of it as the ballad of the set. It's called Duende. This is a tune that Chick recorded back in 1982, and he actually wrote it and dedicated it to the great alto saxophonist Lee Konitz. You're going to be hearing Eva on violin. She's going to be playing the melody on this particular tune. She's got a great, wonderful lyrical sound on the violin, and I'm really thankful that she was wanted to play this particular piece on her violin. So this is called Duende from the album Touchstone, and there's also a really interesting video. You can find it on YouTube of him and Gary Burton playing this in a live performance. Matrix is the next tune. This is really just a blues, just a 12-bar blues, but when you listen to the actual head, the theme, or the head, which is the theme, it doesn't really sound much like a blues. And this tune is from the Now He Sings, Now He Sobs album. And I remember when I first heard this record, I think I was in my last semester at Fresno State, and I just bought the record. Someone told me I needed to listen to it, and I wish I could remember who that was. So I actually went to Tower Records and bought it, and then I had to go to school, so I had it with me. And I had some time, so I went over to the library and I put the thing on, and I was just totally transfixed. You have moments in your life as a musician, at least I did. They're kind of like epiphany moments. My first one was when I was 13, when I heard Dave Brubeck. It kind of totally changed my life because I'd never heard anything like that before. The next epiphany for me was summer after I got out of high school. I had the opportunity to go to Berklee College of Music for a summer session, and boy, talk about being way out of my league. The players there, the students, the other students that were there were a lot of amazing musicians there at that time, and my listening background at that point was very limited, because I was like basically a little Dave Brubeck clone, and I was listening to Vince Guaraldi, and I was also listening to Ramsey Lewis. So when I told this one bass player, he was like, I think he was from South America, he said, so who are you listening to? And I said, well, I told him those three, and he kind of looked at me, and he kind of like, how nice for you. And then he started asking me, well, have you listened to Miles Davis? No. Have you listened to Bill Evans? No. And he went down a whole list. You know, it was no to all of them. So he says, well, I'm going to take you to the music library right now. And that's when things got opened up. And so my second epiphany, and this is the very first thing I listened to when I sat down in the music library at Berklee, was ESP. And that's the title tune on that Miles Davis album. It's a Wayne Shorter tune, and it's the first cut on the album. And I just sat there, my eyes kind of bugged out, because I'd never, it's like a Brubeck, you know, 5 years before, I'd never heard anything like it. And it just got me so excited. So when I got home, of course, I started buying the records, and then I obviously listened to Bill Evans and John Coltrane and a number of other artists, and it's like my universe just kind of exploded. So I didn't really get to Chick for a while. I mean, I'd heard of him. As I was learning, I was kind of, at that time, before I listened to Chick Corea, I was more into Bill Evans and Herbie Hancock. You know, two of my five pillars. But when I heard this record at the library, I was so excited and so blown away that I ran back to the music building. And a friend of mine was in school at that time. Some of you will probably remember him and know him as Louis Pardini. He's with Chicago now. He's playing keyboard, and he's singing with that group. Well, anyway, I saw him in the hallway. I think it was the hallway, and I said, "You got to listen to this with me right now." I mean, I was emphatically insistent, and so we ran back to the library, and Louis kind of had the same kind of a reaction as I did. He was just blown away. Well, at that time, we were doing sessions at the Wild Blue Yonder, and I mean, within 3 or 4 weeks, when Louis started to play, all of a sudden I heard all these Chick Corea licks playing. Louis was really creative and very intuitive, and he had great ears, better ears than I'll ever have, and it began to grow from there. Then all of a sudden I heard Keith Jarrett in his playing, and I heard Herbie, and I was like, so he really blossomed too. So that's how important that particular album was. So Matrix is recorded, it was released in 1968. It's the great trio with Miroslav Vitos and Roy Haynes. Beyond the music of that album, just the recording is amazing itself too. Roy Haynes has got this incredibly beautiful flat ride. They just recorded all the instruments really well, and it's a well-produced record. But that's a classic. If you're going to be a jazz piano player, you cannot be a jazz piano player without listening to that. So without further ado, here's Matrix. 1, 2, now we'd like to kind of change things up a little bit. I was mentioning Chick Corea's first Return to Forever album with the Brazilian group, and this is the title tune from that record. This is one of his first associations with the ECM record label, Editions in Contemporary Music. You know, I was on their website about 4 weeks ago, and the amount of music that they have recorded over the years, over the decades, is just massive. And Chick did record some other albums for ECM. The Paris concerts with Circle, he did a couple really wonderful solo piano albums called Piano Improvisations Volume 1 and 2. So this is a very interesting piece because it's like in different kinds of sections. There are a number of different sections. There are 2 sections for improvising, and while the tune itself is kind of, you know, it's in sections and it's kind of like a complicated piece, the solo sections are actually fairly simple. They're modal in nature. They just stay around one kind of modality. But of course, when Chick played, he never stayed strict to the mode. So there's a lot of freedom in that. And it had a 6/4 section, a Brazilian 6/4 feel, and then a 4/4 section, and then some really nice interludes that are very lyrical and very haunting and very slow. So it's a nice blend of feelings in this particular piece. we'd like to continue now with a piece of his called Song of the Wind. Now, this was initially recorded way back in 1971. It was released in 1972, and it's from a Blue Note album called Is. Yeah, that's the title, Is. And it's a really interesting, harmonically interesting 3/4 tune. Very unusual harmonic changes. It's it kind of that's something I've always been interested in. Is I love the standards and I love bebop, but I really enjoy playing and performing and writing in this idiom, and it's harmonically just very very fresh and very different, and I hope that you like it. Next tune we'd like to play is from Trio Music. Now this is another, I feel, important album. Trio Music was an album that Chick recorded with Miroslav Vitos and Roy Haynes in 1981. They kind of came back together and they did some touring and they recorded this record. It was actually, at the time, this is prior to CDs, it was a 2-album release. One disc featured the group just engaging in spontaneous improvising. They just start playing. You know, the tape machine went on and they just started playing. Whatever happened. They did have one tune on that particular part of the album that Chick wrote, and it was just a little simple 8-measure tune called "Slippery When Wet." So I wanted to include this because I also wanted to give you a sense of that aspect of Chick's creativity. It's almost the way that they play it on the album. We tried to get a similar feel. It's all about collective improvisation. There are no predetermined harmonies or anything, and the idea is for the improvisations to begin to kind of flow out of the theme. So it's very contrapuntal. I really like what we played on it when we were at the session. This is the one tune that I think we did in one take because we were really all happy with it. So this is "Slippery When Wet." close the set now with a tune that I wrote. I wrote this initially, or originally back in 1981, and I wrote it to Chick. I wrote it for Chick. It's called Many Happy Returns. Just felt like that's the title the tune should be. I brought it kind of out of my my old files. I don't mean my computer files. I mean my old, when I had to write everything on with pen and ink. Brought it out of the files and kind of went through it again, and decided I would really like to add it to the program, just as a dedication to his memory. I do have, I actually did, at one point I actually did a jazz ensemble arrangement on this that actually got recorded at San Diego State University. I've been in the habit of the last few months of going back to some of my older tunes and revising them and just adding things, tweaking things. And so there's a little rearrangement and some tweaking. And the thing that was challenging about this piece, other than the fact that there were some really tricky melodic lines, was the roadmap. It took everybody a while to get used to the roadmap, because I was trying to, when I wrote the tune originally, the piano part was like 6 pages. And if there's one thing that musicians don't like to deal with is, a ton of pages. So I was able to kind of like get the bass part and the mandolin part down to 2 pages. But the best I could do with the piano part was, piano and drum part was 5. So I did, but I have this process of reducing the music down, taking it to FedEx and using the paper cutter, and so it can kind of fit. It can kind of fit on the music stand now. But yeah, there's you have to stay really alert on this, because there's 2 codas, which is not typically done. So, but anyway, but I hope you like it, and we present this to Chick Corea's memory, and with much love, with much respect, and much affection. And we just want to thank you too again for listening to this music. I think it's not speaking about my piece, but all this other stuff of Chick's. This is very important music, and we just are glad that we had the opportunity. Again, I thank Jazz Fresno. I thank Joe Lozama. He's always very open to my ideas. I sometimes wonder if he's going, when we're at the recording sessions, he's going, But he's always been really supportive, and we just want to thank Jazz Fresno, and we definitely want to encourage you to really support the mission of Jazz Fresno. I think it's very, very important. It's a very important support organization and an educational organization that needs to be supported. And so I just want to say thank you again. 1, 2, 1.